On today's show, Daniel Gafford may be on the trading block, and I'll tell you the one way it would be worth it for the Mavericks to trade for Daniel Gafford. Other than that, I'm out. On today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
We have
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
Everyone's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Amazing.
Your team every day.
Still can't eat the open.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being an everydayer, making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. Subscribe to our free Locked On Mavs newsletter, your one stop for the best news and analysis on the Dallas Mavericks and the NBA every day. Today's episode is sponsored by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app, create an account, and use that code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, no need to win the bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. And joining me, as always, my co-host, media member, trade titan, the halfway ho, the one more thing king. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Did you just call me the halfway ho? What the crap is that?
You like that one?
TikTok dies and resurrects by the
It's back.
since our last podcast, and now you're calling me his weird names. Speaking of resurrect, TikTok did come back and resurrected on Sunday, and I can tell you about a real resurrection.
Hold on, should I go get my guitar? Should you Pastor Isaac again?
Easter's coming up, so I just want to invite you about talk to you about a real resurrection. And but no, welcome back, TikTok, back from the dead.
No,
Just
come
to
on.
see that.
How are you doing? Your Ravens go down. How are you feeling? What's the
I mean, it
status?
sucks. Yeah, we.
He didn't want to bring it up.
No, I honestly didn't. I get so invested. I've been a Ravens fan for a long time, and I just like curled up in my dog bed with my dog afterwards, and it's tough. I love Lamar, man. There's nothing. And real quick, the feeling of watching Dirk win MVP in 2007 after losing the finals to the Heat and seeing everybody just rag on him, all the stuff. He didn't have the title. I wanted a title for that man, Dirk Nowitzki, so bad at that moment. And I'm like, I don't know if I can survive without it. I'm there for Lamar.
Wow.
And I haven't wanted a title for a single athlete more than Lamar. So one day though, it's going to happen.
Yeah, I won't say anything else. Today's episode.
You better not say anything else.
I was going to do the Lord of the Rings, but it is not this day.
Oh, man.
Today's episode, we're going to get into the Mavs at the halfway point. We're 42 games in, so we're one game ahead of the halfway right now. We're over the hill right now at the NBA season. What have we learned about the Mavericks so far? What do we need to learn about the Mavericks? But let's start here, Isaac Harris. There are rumors that the Mavericks were shopping Daniel Gafford, at least dangling him in trade discussions. we can't use that drop. I wish we could. There are rumors. According to Christian Clark of The Athletic, the Mavericks are known to have strong interest, or the Mavericks have expressed interest in conversations with rival teams about acquiring an impact perimeter defender. According to front office sources with other teams, Dallas has dangled Gafford in those discussions. So, okay, Dallas has dangled Gafford. That's one thing. Then today, reported by our guy Steiny, Mark Stein on the Steinline, great Substack that everybody should be subscribed to. Quote, the Mavericks are known to have strong interest in Pelicans' Herb Jones, but New Orleans has been consistently discouraging trade interest in the perimeter defensive ace. Hold that thought for a second. We'll get back to that one in a second. But the Steinline has been advised that it would be a misnomer to suggest that that Dallas is shopping Daniel Gafford, one of the two key arrivals from last February's trade deadline, to get that wing defender. Isaac, can these two reports both be right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I think it's a kind of a simple thing of like Dallas wants to upgrade on the wing. They want to get another wing defender that can be in that kind of wing defensive rotation. But you got to have contracts to do it, and you got to have players that other teams want. So as much as you guys send us trade proposals with Maxi's contract and the end of the bench or whatever to try to get Giannis, I don't know what to tell you. All right. So, I feel like we get a tweet or a DM or something and say, you know what, the Mavs should go get, and it's like some like really good young player for another team. Like, what are they gonna? So it's like you got to give up somebody, and Gafford is the natural one. You look at his contract; he's under contract for this year, and then next year at a pretty reasonable number, that 15 and a half. Next year, not 15, 13.3.
13.3 this year and 14.3 next year.
There you go. Nick has it for you. So that's the thing. And I think you do have to ask yourself the question too, that next year you got to, like, are you going to try to extend him next year? Are you going to extend a guy who's going to come off the bench because Lively is the long-term starter? Yep. and all the stuff. So does that factor into any of the what you're willing to listen to in trade talks? But yeah, it just makes sense. So
you have to make the decision if it's something you're willing to listen to in trade talks. And I'll tell you, I think there's only one way you trade Daniel Gafford this season. I think the only player that I think I'd be interested in is Herb Jones, the player that was mentioned specifically by Stein, and then also the Athletic kind of like walked around it, acquiring an impact perimeter defender. It's got to be somebody that can be like a Herb Jones. We've done several podcasts on guys that could be like that. I don't know that anybody else reaches that level of a Herb Jones that would be as impactful on the Dallas Mavericks. And so unless it's him specifically, I don't know that I don't know that the Mavs can get somebody that would be as impactful as Daniel Gafford could be on this team.
Listen, Herb Jones is like the home run. Like if you can get Herb Jones, you trade Daniel Gafford. I mean, let's just get that out of the way. All right. I think where it gets tricky is who's the step underneath Herb Jones, and then are you entertaining Daniel Gafford for that guy? That's just the hardest part. And like you could go around and throw different names out, like what about this guy? What about this guy? And some of you might be saying like, why would you give up Daniel Gafford? We see the dunks and all the stuff. He had 27 the other night. Why would you give him up for like a wing? And it's like that's the type of thing.
I think the best example of this, though, sorry to cut you off, is we just finally got two centers. The Mavericks have needed a center for the longest time. You finally just got two. Why would you even consider trading a Daniel Gafford?
And I'm with almost everybody in that camp of like, so many teams are looking for a Daniel Gafford right now. They want another big down low that can do what Gafford does. So you got these two guys and Gafford and Lively that can play great with Luka and do everything you want for a big that plays with Luka. So why do you want to break that up? And it's like, yes, in a perfect world, you don't break it up and you have enough wing defenders. But once again, at some point, you got to sacrifice something if you really need another perimeter defender. And that's where it comes down to like, all right, Daniel Gafford. Would I trade Gafford for a Matisse Thybulle? No, I wouldn't do that. I would keep Gafford in that case. So that's I don't think the Mavs are shopping him. I don't think that they're making calls that just not sourced. I don't think they're like, hey, what do you want for Gafford? What do you want? And all this stuff. But I think if other teams are shopping some perimeter guys that, are these two-way guys and they're talking, the Mavs aren't hanging up the phone or laughing when they're asking, okay, so what can you add to Gafford if you want blank name?
I went through the list a couple of days ago on this show, and we're trying to come up with, all right, who are the elite wing defenders, point of attack guys? And I think this list, I would think about trading and probably would trade Daniel Gafford for most of these guys. There's only like two on this list that I wouldn't. And I just don't think that unless it's somebody on this list, it's hard for me to say, all right, let's trade Daniel Gafford for a Jordan Clarkson or somebody like that, somebody else that's out there that could be. It's just that is a different thing. The Mavericks need defensive perimeter defenders so bad that they have to upgrade at that area. And if you're going to try and upgrade in any other area, I just don't think it would be worth it unless it's an OG Anunoby, Dyson Daniels, KCP, Jalen Suggs, Drew Holiday, Derek White, Herb Jones, Jaden McDaniels.
Right now, I'm like, I don't know. I'm trying to think.
The two that I came up with that obviously won't happen, but Alex Caruso and Lou Dort are like elite perimeter defenders that aren't these probably don't have this crazy value. But like I think I would trade Daniel Gafford for both of those. It's not even just a thing right now.
Yeah, okay.
Right. They're not going to do it. But unless it's any of those guys, and that might not be the complete list, but I think I came up with most of them. I'm not naming superstars, obviously. But unless it's those guys, I'm not trading Daniel Gafford for many other players.
Do you think
that are in his range of trading?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you think the Lakers would entertain anything with their star young duo?
They're getting Jared Vanderbilt back.
I do like Vanderbilt.
I had him in that episode. I had him in like the could use a change of scenery type guy. Could be a Derek Jones Jr. type where the Mavs get him and bring him in, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh my gosh, he's the next guy getting a big contract somewhere. But so that's where we stand with Daniel Gafford. It makes sense that the Mavericks would be offering him in trade discussions, but not necessarily shopping him. Like, we got to get rid of Daniel Gafford. I don't think they're doing that. But I do think that if they do want to move forward, it's his contract or Maxi's contract are the two most expendable ones in the rotation that are the biggest, most expendable ones in the rotation. You've got to trade somebody. And so for me, and I think for Isaac too, unless it's Herb Jones or one of those other names I mentioned, I don't think the Mavs should trade him. And I think the Mavs should continue on and just hope that they can get healthy or look at a different route for a different trade.
What about teammate Trey Murphy?
That's an interesting one. I don't think he's available at all. If Herb Jones is not available, Trey Murphy's not.
I don't know. Like, him and Naji are buds, so
Naji and him are definitely buds.
Do the right thing, Trey.
The clips coming out from Trey Murphy about Naji Marshall are very funny. You gotta love that. Coming up, we're halfway through the season. Let's talk about what we know about the Mavericks so far. There's one thing I know about the Mavericks. They are the number one team in the NBA in one thing, and it is holding me and sustaining me through this injury run. We'll tell you what that is and why. Coming up.
I don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks daily fantasy made easy. All you have to do is go to Prize Picks, pick more or less on two players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Think LeBron's going to drop 40, 30. Think that Pat Mahomes is going to actually throw over like 250 yards, because I don't know. He doesn't do that very often anymore. Just kind of like throws for a couple hundred and then just wins at the end. You can combine NBA, NFL, all kinds of different stuff. Who are you looking at in the NFL in the conference championship rounds?
Jaden Daniels, baby. He's fun.
That has been fun. You can pick more on him. You can add a bunch of different ones. You can add NBA and NFL at the same time. We can use Prize Picks to do all those different things. And sometimes you get your money as quickly as 15 minutes after a win. You got to love that. It's a perfect time to join. Download the app today. Use that code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Isaac, that's right. No need to win to get bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, what we call our listeners. We appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the show and for being with us. Shout out to the two guys that I met on the serve team at Social Dallas today that saw me from across the room and saw that and called me over, and we had a good talk. So shout out to Joseph and Courtney.
And the guy we met at Brickfest.
Oh yeah, that's right. Isaac and I went with his son to this Lego event. I looked for Dereck Lively. I didn't find him. I think we would have saw him if we
probably
there. But yeah, shout out to the guy we met at Brickfest as well. Actually, shout out to Courtney, because he gave up sports and podcasts for fasting for the beginning of the year, and I was like, man,
that's legit.
I respect that.
But he's still listening. So
no, he's not. He apologized to me. He's like, I'm not listening right now because I'm fasting. That's fine. I appreciate.
Let's talk,
that.
Courtney.
Yeah. Come to Pastor Isaac's office.
We'll talk about fasting.
All right, we're 42 games into the season. One thing we've learned about the Dallas Mavericks, I'm going to start off. They have the number one starting lineup in the NBA. They just haven't played a lot of time together.
Yeah.
I'm confident in this lineup. Luka, Kyrie, Klay Thompson, PJ Washington, and Dereck Lively have a plus 25.6 net rating, according to Cleaning the Glass, meaning they outscore opponents by 25.5 points per 100 possessions when they're on the floor. They have 130 offensive rating, which is in the 91st percentile. Elite. An elite, incredible offense when those guys are together. They also have 105 defensive rating, which is in the 71st percentile. Close to elite. Like very, very, very good. Above average. Great defense when they're on the court together. The problem is they've only played 14 games in 119 minutes. To compare it to some of the most used lineups in the NBA, the Knicks starters, the number one used lineup, 36 games. They played 688 minutes. They played 6 times the amount of time that the Mavericks have played so far this season. The Timberwolves starters, 34 games, 450 minutes. The Houston starters, 28 games. They played 416 minutes. The Mavericks, they have this issue every year, it seems like. We talked about this all last year, where they just don't, they have these lineups that just don't play very often together because they're Jason Kidd's changing them, trying to figure things out. The Mavs make trades, injuries, all that. But we do know that one thing about this lineup, it's the best one in the NBA.
Yeah, I did an episode the other day, and it was like talking about kind of like, hey, hold, don't fold on these Mavs. And one of my reasons for that is like, I think this team has the least amount of question marks than some of these other teams, because we've seen them. They've been there. They've done that. as far as their main rotation pieces, yeah, they've added a Klay and Naji and Dinwiddie back and stuff, but these main guys in Luka, Kyrie, PJ, Lively, Gafford, like, even like Maxi and like these guys they went to finals together. Like they've done it at a high level. So we know it works. And I think that's the thing that's giving you the hope right now during this weird time in which players are injured and coming back and these weird lineups and stuff is, hey, if they can just get healthy and be in the playoffs, we know this works at a high level. It's working in the regular season in those 119 minutes at a plus 20, 5 net rating. And we've seen this, the main rotation go to an NBA finals too. So, and your core duo of Luka and Kyrie works at a high level. So that's a big thing. I had that at the top of my list.
Yeah, it has to be, because it's the most exciting thing about the Mavericks, I think, is when we saw that group together. And it hasn't been often, and it wasn't necessarily the starting five very often either. But when they are together, that's been great. By the way, I had this for a different stat, but I'll bring it back up now. The Mavs only have two lineups that have played six or more games in the fourth quarter together. 2 5-man lineups.
Two
that have played 6 or more games, not even a lot of games, just like in the fourth quarter. One of them is Jaden Hardy, Brandon Williams, Quentin Grimes, Omax, and Dwight Powell, okay. the garbage time lineup. The other one is the starting five, the only real Mavs lineup that has played 6 or more games in the fourth quarter. Like, that has been a closing lineup for them too, and has worked really well. And so, yeah, I just need to see more from that lineup. That's something we still need to learn. It's like, all right, let's see more than 14 games and see if it's still this elite, or if they hit a slump, or if they play certain competition, maybe it's different. But from what we've seen so far and what my eyes have seen, and also what the stats say, this lineup is very good. I'll throw in one more, because I think you may have a similar one. It's the deepest team in the Luka era. I think that was a thing that we said coming in, but I think it's been confirmed so far.
Yes. Oh, sorry. I thought you were going to throw out a stat or something.
Dallas, I've lots of them, but Dallas is 10-10 without Luka so far this season. Would you like to know the Mavs record without Luka the last 4 seasons? You ready for this? They're 10-10 this season without Luka. Last year they were 4-8. Year before that, when they missed the postseason, they were 5-11. Tough. Year before that, 2022, when they made the Western Conference Finals run, they were 8-9. So it's not too bad. And then in 2021, they were 2-4.
Okay.
Imagine Luka not playing 6 games, only 6 games. But this is the deepest team in the Luka era, and we're seeing it. We're seeing the fruits of it already.
No, I agree with you. Yeah. I did a whole thing the other day about how, don't judge the supporting cast right now when the pieces that were brought in to fit around the two guys aren't playing. So, yeah, I think it's still a deep team. I've just seen some fans I thought we were deep and we suck. And it's like, no, the pieces work when they're fitting into the definition they were brought in for. I had 2 things. Well, actually, I had a couple of different things as far as what we've learned from the beginning of the season till now. 2 players that just haven't taken the leap yet. Omax just hasn't taken any type of leap.
Yeah.
He has moments and stuff. I get excited about it. It'd be awesome.
Jalen dunk.
I mean, it's healing right now.
You got it tattooed on you.
But I think the biggest one right underneath for me, right underneath the starting lineup works well is Lively just hasn't taken that big leap yet. I was in the camp of, as far as hey, he's missed 10 games and it's his foul trouble, man. He's got to mature with the foul trouble, that he still hasn't figured out when to be aggressive, when he's too aggressive, and that takes him out of games at times. And he's still playing really good, but once again, I thought it was gonna he was gonna firmly surpass Daniel Gafford as the starting big. And I get it, we're only 42 games in the season, but at 24 minutes a game, I thought this was going to be 30 minutes a game. And he's so many, national people are talking about him, all the different stuff. And it feels like he's kind of stayed the same. He's gotten, he switches better on the perimeter, I think, but still the fouls take him out of the game sometimes. He makes some weird decisions and still good, but he just hasn't taken that I'm a next young star leap yet.
The only thing I disagree with what you just said is that he hasn't separated himself enough from Gafford. I think he definitely has, but I think the fouls have held him back, and so I think
Gafford
you're right.
expendable.
I mean, we just talked about it. Yeah, kind of in a way. And so I think that he hasn't taken a huge leap, but he has definitely gotten a little better here and there in different ways. But yeah, if you expected him to take a huge leap, where man, he's all defense, and he's closing games and playing 35 minutes in games and things like that. That hasn't necessarily happened yet, and he's 20. I mean, that's still another thing. We expect so much of him because we've seen how good he can be. Yeah. The Mavs also, back to the lineups thing, is that they've only played 7 games with its top 9 players.
That's just sad.
They're 5-2 in those games. And the 2 losses are Christmas Day, which Luka went out in that one, and a Houston game where they lost by 6. Those are the only 2 losses, but they have, and I think they also look like a small thing. They have their top 9. You know what they are, and then you add Maxey, and that makes 10.
Yeah.
That's solid.
I had small things about some of the rotation stuff. I think we've learned that Klay fits. Not that we had a big question going into the season, but I think we've learned that, in the first half of the season. For me, I think we've learned that Naji is the 3rd best creator on the team. I would put him over. I put him over Dinwiddie with that. I trust him more coming down the floor, and he has the ball, and he kind of runs the offense, and what he makes happen with that. So I think those are two of the new guys of Klay and Naji of all right, these are things I've learned, not that they were huge question marks. And with Dinwiddie, I think I've learned with Dinwiddie that he can't consistently handle an expanded role of hey, I think he has the defined role off the bench. And if he stays in that, I think that's where it works. When you put him into the Luka box and definition, that's where it gets a little dangerous.
Coming up, a few more things I learned about the Mavericks, especially what I've learned about PJ Washington and the big questions we still need to answer about the Mavs coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has all kinds of props and odds, things that you can use to get in on the action, and check out FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. They've already got the lines for the conference champions. I'm going to make you guess the lines.
Yeah, let's do this.
Bills, Chiefs. Chiefs at home.
Oh, Chiefs, 2.5.
Chiefs, 1.5. Slight favor right there. That one makes sense to me. Eagles, Commanders. Eagles at home.
Ooh, Eagles by 6.
5.5. You're so close in that one. So if you're feeling confident about either of those, you think the Eagles will win by more than 5 points, if you think the Chiefs will win by 2 points or more, or if you think the opposite, go check it out. Put down $5 on FanDuel, and you get $300 in bonus bets to play and use on anything else throughout the rest of the NFL playoffs or into the NBA playoffs or anything else. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. Get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, Isaac, let's talk about some things we still have learned about the Dallas Mavericks. We think we've learned a few things about the Mavs. For me, one of the things that I've learned is PJ Washington's ready for more. Was ready for more, is ready for more. He came in last season at the end of the season and was a huge part of the Mavericks going to the finals. If you listen to the show that I did with Matt Moore, I doubt many of you did because of how I know that many of you think about Matt Moore. He did a show with me and Kirk Henderson from Mavs Moneyball called Daggers, where he had an opinion about the Mavericks, that they had a fluky run last year. And I
bet that opinion was great.
And he said that it was a fluky run last year, and he'd rather have played the Mavs than a Heat team last year. And I was like, what? And so he asked me and Kirk to come on and dagger, like stab.
Hey, listen, man, I know you hate Kyrie, but
yeah. And one of the things was that there was so much shooting variance in what PJ Washington did against the Thunder, and that's what a lot of Thunder fans have complained about with PJ Washington. But from what I've seen from PJ Washington this season, he was ready for more. He was ready to do more, shooting 37.5% from three, his highest since 2021. And that's been up and down this season a little bit, but that it always is for players. Career high in rebounds too, 7.8. His highest was 6.5 in 2021. He's doing the post-up thing a lot more. He's handling the ball a little bit. He was the Mavs' #1 shooter when Luka and Kyrie are out. Like, he's taking the most shots. It's just, he was ready for more, and I think that's something that I learned.
Yeah, I learned it, and I'm curious to see what it looks like when Luka and Kyrie are back healthy. Is he able to go back to the Sean Marion role? to where like, hey, the offense isn't going to roll through you as sometimes because we have two other guys that are better at that than you, and Kyrie and Luka. But when they've been out, yeah, it's been cool to see him kind of step into that role a little bit.
Well, last quick thing I have on something I've learned. Mavs are top 10 offense and defense with or without everyone. They're still top 10 defense and 7 in offense right now. I mean, I don't think that'll last much longer without Luka and Kyrie, but I guess Kyrie is now back. He's not even on the injury report for the early game on Monday. So
early game on Monday. So
yeah, 11 a.m. Central.
Let's get ready for that one. I don't have anything else.
Anything else? You haven't learned anything else about that?
I mean, I named 6 things.
The Mavs went 4 for 4 on offseason additions. Right? Because I think I went into this offseason confident about each of them.
Yeah.
I was very confident about Quentin Grimes. I was confident about Naji Marshall. I was confident about what I expected from Spencer Dinwiddie. He's been almost exactly what I expected after the first couple weeks of the season. But I didn't think that the Mavs would go 4 for 4, and they did. And I think that that's been kind of
yeah. Let's transition to like what we still need to learn, because I have one on Grimes with this. I think we still need to learn what Kid thinks of Grimes. I get confused of. I think we just need to figure out like what is he to Jason Kidd. I feel like his role has changed, his minutes change. He gets put in these like, I have no clue what Jason Kidd thinks about his role when everybody is healthy. And I think they really need him. So I think we really need to learn that sometime soon.
He has fit into the Josh Green role in the rotation, like very seamlessly. I'm not comparing the two players right now, but just that he, like in the 18 games before Christmas, because I'll use Christmas because Luka went out and then all of a sudden all the injuries went crazy. In the 18 games, he played 25 minutes a game. He started 9 games and then came off the bench for 9 games. And he had games where he played 17 minutes. He had games where he played 36 minutes. Like he just goes all over the place with that. And Josh Green kind of did the same thing where Jason Kidd, he can just put him in wherever and he can fit in a lot of places. But yeah, what does he think? Does he think that he's what number in the rotation does he think he is? I think that's a good question.
I think they really, really need his like strengths. They need that point of attack defender. There's so many games. Not that I'm saying like I regret the whole like Klay, Dereck Jones Jr., all the different stuff. But there are a lot of games in which I'm saying, man, it'd be really nice to have Dereck Jones Jr. right now.
Yeah.
Of like just that point of attack guy.
On that, I think the Mavs still need to learn what their closing lineup is. The stat I shared earlier, they've only used 2 lineups, 5-man lineups in 6 or more fourth quarters this season. So I don't think they still know what exactly their closing lineup is. Klay has closed some games. He's not closed some games. You've had Naji out there, Grimes out there. Maxey has been out there and not been out there. They've just gone different things, and maybe it'll change all the time, and maybe that's fine. Maybe Jason Kidd looks at it and says, "All right, what do we need in this moment?" and throws it out there. But I'm curious to see what they end up doing, where they end up going, especially in the playoffs. When it's all right, we're going to impose our will on a team. What lineup do we put out there? Is it the starters or is it something else?
Yeah, I did. I put the same thing. I said, who is the closing 2 around Luka, Kyrie, and PJ? I think those 3 are locks. Like those 3 are always going to be closing games. So then who is it? And then I put, or is it just situational? You know, do you need Naji with PJ out there? Do you have another guy that you trade for? Do you, depending on the big on the floor, is it, Lively? Is it Gafford? Is it Maxey? So I think it's those 3 guys, but who's the other 2 guys? And a lot of times it's okay to not know that, and it's situational based. So, or it's by the series, right? So,
yeah, bunch of new players, and they haven't all played a lot together. I don't think that it's bad that we don't know the answer to that question yet.
Is it Markieff Morris?
Could be. My last one is OKC the only threat in the playoffs in the West?
Yeah, I actually did. This is another thing I did on the show the other day. Is like you look at the other teams in the West and you say, "All right, besides OKC, are we still like saying, are we scared of anybody?" Like, because I think a lot of these other teams, they can't say the same thing of like, "Hey, we've been there, done that." There's a lot of other teams in the West that have new pieces, new starting units, and it's like, all right, can we do that at a high level? Or they don't know about their team. Like, what's Houston thinking about their team right now? I feel like they're just like, get us to the playoffs. Let's just see what we have.
Either we either we run into the playoffs or we trade for Kevin Durant. Like they've gone. I feel like they've gone to both things. Do they need to take that huge trade, or are they ready right now?
Which I really like Houston's core, and it's a good, it's a cool spot to be in. But it's like, once again, if we're fully healthy come playoff time, it's just like OKC that I'm saying, like, at this point, and even them, we get up for OKC. Like, we love playing OKC. PJ loves playing OKC.
The other team I would throw in this, and I just put OKC out there just because they're head and shoulders above everybody right now. But the Nuggets is another team. The Mavs have never played the Nuggets in the playoffs. It's different. That would be one that I would be really interested to see. But again, it's not a team where I go in going, oh, the Mavs have no chance.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
The Mavs, you wouldn't go into it or the Mavs, or maybe I would think about picking the Nuggets over the Mavs in a series like that.
Yeah. The only last thing I had on, like, things we need to learn about the Mavs, and this is like time sensitive, is Gafford expendable? Making full circle here to the first subject we talked about, is we got to figure out right now over these next few weeks, is Gafford expendable for this team? And I think we're going to see that depending on whether they truly do include him in any trade talks and it comes out and it's all the stuff, if they actually trade him, or if it's like a complete shutdown, like, hey, we're not trading Gafford, and then bam, he's not traded, he's on the team, and it's like, oh, they feel really strongly about Gafford. So we'll see.
Yeah, maybe another question is, can Nico pull rabbit out of his hat one more time? Can Nico pull some magic? Is he always makes a deal at the dedeadline?
Yeah.
Can he do one more thing, right? Like, maybe that's another question.
Wait, did you say one more thing?
That's right.
That's what makes the trade deadline still fun, even though I feel like this team is close to complete whenever they're fully healthy. You got Nico Harrison. There's no telling what they pull off.
You never know. That's a couple things we learned about the Dallas Mavericks. That's some of the rumors that we've heard lately. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us. Check the QR code and the links in the description for different ways to follow the show. We got the Locked On Mavs insiders. We need to catch Locked On Bills. They can't win everything. They're number one as far as insider subscribers to get text straight to their phone. We're number two. Isaac can't come to the show. Isaac can't lose to the Bills with something else. So subscribe to become an insider. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. We'll be back tomorrow with the early show for a post game. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.
Happy MLK Day.